Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome along to the third webinar in our series of IPSX Meet the Experts. And joining me today is Lisa Walker, Head of Market Regulation at IPSX. And we're going to be discussing the role of the lead advisor, why you need one, and how you become one. But before we get started, let me just point out how you can post questions to Lisa at any point by using the text box which appears at the bottom of your screens. Now, you may just need to move your mouse to activate this, but it should appear, and then you can type any questions that you might have for us using that text box there. We'll take those questions right at the end after Lisa has spoken in about 20 minutes or so. Once the webinar is over, we'll be posting this up to our resources section of the website, ipsx.com, and you can listen to that and also to our other podcasts and webinars. So let's get started. Lisa, a very good morning.
Good morning. Right, so thank you very much for having me along this morning. The purpose of today's session is to talk about the role of the IPSX lead advisor. So the current slide depicts the IPSX advisory community in its broadest sense. What you'll see on the slide is all the different types of experts, as well as the regulators, who are part of the process of bringing an issuer to market. So the slide has a number of pink dotted boxes, and those depict the formal members of IPSX. So you'll see trading members in the top right-hand box, and you'll see two boxes in the lower part of the slide depicting the IPSX lead advisor and the IPSX approved valuer. So today I'm going to talk specifically about the role of the IPSX lead advisor. So just to give you an overview of what the lead advisor does. There's two elements to that. One is they support an issuer through the IPO, and then they may also provide other services as part of their IPO process. So the IPSX lead advisor is responsible for assessing whether or not an applicant or a company that wants to come to market satisfies all of the relevant admission standards for admission to IPSX. In particular, they will support the issuer during the preparation of its admission documents. This will generally include a prospectus and a red book valuation that forms part of the prospectus. These documents must be submitted simultaneously to the FCA and to IPSX. And these are required in order for the issuer to be admitted to trading on a regulated market. So in our case, IPSX Prime is an EU regulated market. IPSX lead advisors will work alongside other advisors who provide complementary services to support the IPO. And you recall from the previous slide, the wider ecosystem. The services that they could provide in addition to being a lead advisor is perhaps legal or accounting and tax advice, as well as public relations services. It might also be the case that the IPSX lead advisor is an FCA sponsor. So if an issuer was looking to be admitted to the official list and the premium segment, they would need to appoint an FCA sponsor. Our IPSX lead advisors must, there's no absolute requirement for them to be FCA sponsors, but you can check their credentials and you will be able to confirm whether or not they're also an FCA sponsor. So in respect of IPSX, the lead advisor, in addition to the prospectus and the red book valuation that are required by the FCA, the lead advisor must also submit to IPSX the core issuer information, which is set out in our rules for issuers. And this information is essentially factual information about the issuer, which is directly submitted via an IPSX web portal to IPSX. The web portal gives the lead advisor direct access to IPSX's data repository, which is called Golden Source, and the lead advisor is granted access once they're approved as a lead advisor. The IPSX lead advisor, as part of the IPO process, is also required to prepare an IPSX lead advisor declaration. This declaration states that they have undertaken due and careful inquiry and are of the opinion that an applicant has satisfied all of the applicable requirements set out in the IPSX rules for issuers. So that's very much at the end stage of the IPO. The declaration also confirms the lead advisor's opinion that the directors of the applicant have established procedures which enable them to comply with the IPSX rules for issuers on an ongoing basis. In addition to the core responsibilities of the lead advisor, as I mentioned, there are other types of services they could provide. So, for example, a lead advisor who's an investment bank could well provide the services of book running. Some lead advisors may be law firms, in which case they may be able to provide legal services in addition to being a lead advisor, which would help with the preparation of legal documents and contracts as part of the IPO. Alternatively, a number of sponsors, FCA sponsors, or indeed lead advisors could be accounting firms, so they would be able to provide some of the financial accountancy services and tax advice. So this next slide is a simplified version of the IPO timetable. And at the top, you will see a timeline with ATT, the months to ATT. This is the admission to trading timeline. So this slide really sets out what a lead advisor does during that process or how they're involved. So the first thing that happens is an issuer will formally appoint an IPSX lead advisor. So that lead advisor will take them through the formal application process and help them to produce all of the necessary documentation that they need to IPO. Secondly, the lead advisor is responsible for ensuring that the issuer has prepared and submitted all of the relevant filings both to IPSX and to the FCA. So the FCA generally reviews several drafts of the prospectus before it signs off. So it's important to get a draft prospectus to the FCA in good time ahead of the intended date when the issuer wants their shares admitted to trading. That gives time for a number of iterations and reviews before the FCA will sign off on the prospectus. And at the very end of the process, when the prospectus and the Red Book valuation have been finalised, the lead advisor submits their lead advisor declaration to the IPSX. So this slide goes into a bit of detail around the role of a lead advisor after IPO. So there is no formal requirement for IPSX issuers to retain the services of a lead advisor. However, there's certain key transactions post-IPO where an issuer must engage the services of a lead advisor. And these are where it may choose to undertake further capital raising. It may be if they're looking to enter into certain transactions, which, because of the nature and size of the transactions, they would constitute a significant transaction, a related party transaction, or a reverse takeover under IPSX's rules. And in these situations, the lead advisor would be required to support them through that process, which typically involves the class tests, which require notifications to the shareholders, and in some cases, shareholder voting. And the third type of activity a lead advisor would be involved with is if an issuer decides to cancel its admission to trading, or indeed if it found itself in severe financial difficulty. So if you're a company looking to come to market, how would you choose a lead advisor? There's a number of options for you. The first is the IPSX website provides a member directory where you can find a lead advisor and choose them off that directory. There's a number of other types of members that are also in the member directory, and as an issuer, you would also look to the same directory to select other types of members that would be involved in your IPO. Alternatively, if the company has established relationships with another firm who may also be able to provide IPSX lead advisor services, that firm could also reach out to IPSX to discuss their eligibility for membership with the market regulation team. And the market regulation team's contact details are also on the IPSX website. If a firm already has experience in supporting IPOs, whether it's as an FCA sponsor or if they perform similar advisory roles for issuers on other exchanges, they'll be familiar with the types of responsibilities that they would have as an IPSX lead advisor. So what rules apply to the IPSX lead advisor? There's two sets of rules that a lead advisor will need to be aware of and understand. The first, most directly applicable, are the IPSX rules for members. The main rules that are applicable within the rules for members are parts 1 and parts 2. Part 1 are the IPSX principles for members, which apply to all members, and part 2 are rules that are specific to the IPSX lead advisors. By extension, a lead advisor must also be familiar with the IPSX rules for issuers, because they must ensure that an issuer is able to comply with these rules. So part of their role is to ensure compliance as part of the IPO process, and also to make sure that the issuer understands the wider obligations that will apply to them post-IPO. And in particular, the IPSX rules for issuers include schedules, which include certain information that the lead advisor or the issuer must provide. And I've mentioned already the lead advisor declaration. So how do you become a lead advisor? As I mentioned, you can go to our website, and we've got a screenshot here of the application form and a link to where you would go to download that membership form. This is on our website. The process is pretty straightforward. You download the application form and you work through a fairly straightforward set of questions. And of course, the market regulation team is very happy to help an applicant as they work through the application process if they have any questions. Other materials that you'll also find if you're looking to be a lead advisor are on our website and are relevant to applying. These include IPSX rules, which we've referred to previously, and also the IPSX admission agreement. The IPSX admission agreement sets out the terms and conditions which apply to members and are found in the Rules tab on the IPSX website. So thanks very much for an opportunity to take you through the role of the lead advisor, how you choose a lead advisor, and how you would become one if you're looking to join. I'm very happy at this point to take any questions from the floor.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Lisa, and very helpful to set out in such detail the importance of the role that lead advisor has, not just in the IPO process, but also post-IPO. And I think it's important for those that are listening to this webinar to appreciate why that is and what their obligations are. So we do have some questions that have come in as a result of that overview of yours. And let's take those in turn if we may. So the first question I've got is, let's take a look. At what stage of the process of an IPO should you be speaking to a lead advisor?
So we don't specify when they must start, when a company must start talking to a lead advisor. And we envisage that in the early days, they will informally engage with a lead advisor. And there's no formal obligation to appoint a lead advisor until the point at which an issuer has submitted an initial application for admission to trading, We do a high-level vetting process, undertake a high-level vetting process at that point. And if we're comfortable that in principle the issuer is able to come to market, subject to satisfying both the FCA's requirements as well as ours, then at that stage we would ask the company to appoint the lead advisor. So when we would go back to the company to give our in-principle approval to commence the formal application, we would then ask the issuer to nominate their chosen lead advisor. And the lead advisor then takes on the formal responsibility for submitting the materials that we require as part of the admission process.
Very good, thank you very much. Well, that's nice and clear. There's another question here about, I think the point here is about legal qualifications. So are there any legal qualifications that a lead advisor needs to have or indeed should have? So
as I mentioned earlier, some lead advisors will have legal qualifications and some don't. And if you're looking to the wider community of firms that could become lead advisors, a good starting point is to look at, say, the FCA's approved sponsor list. And you'll see there that firms come from a variety of different disciplines. They could be investment banks. Some of them may have legal qualifications, the individuals, but there's no formal obligation. Others could be law firms, and there indeed are a number of law firms that we've been talking to. And then another discipline that you will see lead advisors or indeed FCA sponsors come from is from the accountancy profession. So to summarise, no, there's no formal requirement for legal qualifications, but in practice you could well have legal qualifications as part of that competence.
Excellent. Okay, that's very clear. Now, you spoke a little bit about the application process for lead advisors to become approved as part of the IPSX. So this question here is, how long does it take for that approval process and for a lead advisor to be appointed?
So once we receive a complete application form, and typically there might be some additional questions that we may go back on or points of clarification, but once we've got a full and complete application form, our internal delivery standard is 10 working days. If the form is in a good state, then we can typically turn that round in a shorter time period. In terms of when they would then be, how long it would take for them to then be appointed to a specific issuer, that is entirely up to the issuer to discuss with the lead advisor in terms of the appointment process.
Very good. Okay, well, that's nice and clear. So thank you, Lisa, for taking us through. Those are all the questions and points that we've had this morning, which is, I think, has been very informative and very helpful to understand more about the roles and responsibilities of lead advisors. So I think it really just turns to me now just to thank you again, Lisa, for taking us through that, and to thank all those that have listened in this morning to listen to this particular webinar. Coming up, we're going to be looking at the role of the approved valuer, and dates for that webinar are up on our website. And after that, we're going to be looking at in detail at getting ready for an IPO on IPSX. So please do join us again for those webinars coming up. And as I mentioned right at the beginning of this, all of our webinars and indeed podcasts are available on IPSX.com, where you are able to download them and listen to them at your leisure. So thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to presenting the role of the approved valuer to you very shortly. Thank you.